convinced that the Piltdown skull and jaw were from completely different creatures. From his knowledge of medicine and dentistry, Marston concluded that the skull, with its closed sutures, was that of a mature human, while the jaw, with its incompletely developed molars, was from an immature ape.
Oh.
He also felt that the dark staining of the bones, taken as a sign of great antiquity, was actually caused by Dawson soaking them in a solution of potassium dichromate to harden them. Marston's ongoing campaign about the Piltdown fossils eventually drew the attention of J.S. Weiner. Is that right? Weiner? Maybe it's Weiner. An Oxford anthropologist. Weiner soon became convinced that something was wrong with the Piltdown fossils. He reported his suspicions to W.E. Legros-Clark.
It's Weiner.
Weiner?
German, right?
Yeah, maybe it is. Weiner. Okay. Clark was the head of the anthropology department at Oxford University, but Clark was at first skeptical. On August 5th of 1953, Weiner and Oakley met with Clark at the British Museum, where Oakley removed the actual Piltdown specimens from a safe so they could examine the controversial relics. At this point, Weiner presented to Clark a chimpanzee tooth that he had taken from a museum collection and then filed and stained. The resemblance to the Piltdown molar was so striking that Clark authorized a full investigation of all the Piltdown fossils. So in other words, he had a chimpanzee tooth that he personally filed into a point.
Yeah.
And then stained it. And it looked so much like that they were like, ooh, we better check these. A second fluorine content test using new techniques was applied to the Piltdown human fossils. 3 pieces of the Piltdown skull now yielded a fluorine content of 0.1%, but the jaw and teeth yielded a much lower content of 0.01 to 0.4%. Because fluorine content increases with the passing of time, the results indicated a much older age for the skull than for the jaw. So you see,
man.
I know.
That's not cool.
They wanted the skull to be young and the jaw to be old, right? Of course. If they're not going to be connected, then the skull needs to be young because it's modern.
Yeah.
This meant they could not belong to the same creature. Regarding the 2 fluorine content tests by Oakley, we see that the first indicated both the skull and jaw were of the same age, whereas the second indicated they were of different ages. It was stated that the second set of tests made use of new techniques that happened to give a desired result. This sort of thing occurs quite often in paleoanthropology. Researchers run and rerun tests or refine their methods until an acceptable result is achieved, and then they stop. In such cases, it seems the test is calibrated against a theoretical expectation. Nitrogen content tests were also run on the Piltdown fossils. Examining the results, Weiner found that the skull bones contained 0.6 to 1.4% nitrogen, whereas the jaw contained 3.9%, and the dentine portion of some of the Piltdown teeth contained 4.2 to 5.1%. The test results therefore showed that the cranial fragments were of a different age than the jaw and teeth, demonstrating they were from different creatures. Modern bone contains about 4 to 5% nitrogen, and the content decreases with age. So again, the skull is by far the oldest part of this fossil. So it appeared the jaw and teeth were quite recent, while the skull was older. The results of the fluorine and nitrogen content test still allowed one to believe that the skull, at least, was native to the Piltdown gravels. But finally, even the skull fragments came under suspicion. The British Museum report said, Dr. G.F. Claringbull carried out an X-ray crystallographic analysis of these bones and found that their main mineral constituent, hydroxyapatite, had been partly replaced by gypsum. Studies of the chemical conditions of the Piltdown subsoil and groundwater showed that such an unusual alteration could not have taken place naturally in the Piltdown gravel. Dr. M.H. Hay then demonstrated demonstrated that when subfossil bones are artificially iron stained by soaking them in strong iron sulfate solutions, this alteration does occur. Thus, it is now clear that the cranial bones have been artificially stained to match the gravel and planted at the site with the other finds. Despite the evidence presented in the British Museum report, it can still be argued that the skull was originally from the Piltdown gravels. All of the skull pieces were darkly iron-stained throughout, but the jawbone, also said to be a forgery, only had a surface stain.
Yeah.
Furthermore, a chemical analysis of the first skull fragments discovered by Dawson showed that they had a very high iron content of 8%, compared to only 2 to 3% of the jaw. This evidence suggests that the skull fragments acquired their iron staining, penetrating the entire bone and contributing 8% iron to the bone's total mineral content from a long stay in the iron-rich gravels at Piltdown. The jaw, with simply a surface stain and much smaller iron content, appears to be of a different origin. I think that this report by the British Museum, this report seems to me to like they're trying to explain, they want the skull to be the hoax,
Yeah.
not the jaw, because if the skull isn't part of the hoax and it's really sourced from these Piltdown gravels, it's too old.
Yeah. Yep.
So they come up with a way to explain it away, but they're just the authors here, Cremo and Thompson, are just like, well, that skull bone is very high iron content and it is stained all the way through, implying that it did sit in those Pleistocene gravels for a long time.
Yeah.
Unlike the jaw, which is only, you can scrape it and the staining goes away.
Or it's just that the jaw hadn't been there for very long.
Right.
In the gravel.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yep. And there's more to this.
When was this whole controversy unfolding? In the 50s?
Well, the discovery was in 1908 to 1911.
Right. But the controversial
the controversial parts start they started to say it was a hoax in the 50s. Yeah.
I'm going to have to listen to this segment again because that was like a lot of...
Yeah, there's a lot of technical details in there.
Yeah, so real quick, before we wrap it up, going back to this this recent paper here, you can, if you go and read the paper, it's a good read, but you can see the level of detail that they go into to describe their methods.
Yeah,
and all the while saying like, yeah, we realize this is an unexpected age.
Yeah.
And then they throw in, of course, the comment that's like, we need to take a serious look at the possibility that all this stuff could be natural.
right.
Even though they're saying, yeah, but these flints are not natural to the cave.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
You can tell that they're
Tiptoeing around the problem.
They're following the rules that have been set up by the establishment. Okay, we have an anomalous find, which means that we have to be,
Yeah. Incredibly skeptical. Yeah.
not just that, but just thorough. Very, very, very thorough to every possible degree.
Right.
Which you see the Comet Research Group doing in all of their papers as well.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas the opponents can go out there and do some crappy work and throw out this...
make mistakes. And
Yeah, it's like you see it over and over again in that
yeah.
debate with the younger dryas impact hypothesis.
Yeah. Yep. And this Piltdown thing, it makes me, I'm like, who are they going to who are they blaming for this hoax?
The guy who died?
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to blame the Jesuit, right?
Yeah, they're
Because they have the Christian person that shows up, and they're like, okay,
But it's weird because that guy supported he totally supported
the finds in China.
The finds in China and Java and Indonesia. Yeah.
Maybe they're hoaxes too,
Yeah, they could be.
but they just haven't been.
They haven't been determined as being hoaxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Dawson guy was probably legit. He was an amateur, but he was I don't know, it just seemed to me like when I was reading about him, like, for 30 years he was a fellow of the Geological Society. He
Yeah.
was good friends with somebody from the Royal Society and who ran the freaking museum, and he'd been invited to give talks on his collections. Collections had been put in the museum. It doesn't sound like he'd be a hoax. Like, why would he hoax something at the end of his life?
Doesn't seem, yeah.
So maybe they implied
he didn't know it was going to be the end of his life.
I know, yeah. But maybe you don't know that until the end. But maybe maybe they're implying the workmen did the hoaxing, but that it gets past all these guys. I don't know. You can't blame the initial finds on the Jesuit because he wasn't there yet.
The initial finds, but the
Jesuit finds the tooth.
Just the tooth, not the jaw. The jawbone had already been found.
Yeah.
But there were people already writing in their skepticism as, whether they were...
Yeah.
They belonged to the same skull, so he shows up and he kind of like...
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
Tries to make it fit.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing.
It is weird, yeah. Or maybe that wasn't him. I mean, who knows how many other people could have been involved, and they might have been talking about like, yeah, we're looking for a tooth. We need to find a tooth.
Yeah, we need a
that looks like this.
Yeah,
it could have been any unnamed person that is not even in the story.
Right. But now it's the skull that they call the hoax.
Yeah, yeah. Which is pointing the finger at the original guy.
That's
whatever
right.
His name was.
Yeah.
Dawson.
At Dawson. Or the workman. Somehow.
Yeah. And they would have known to somehow give it the iron look. And, I don't know. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
That's the other thing is that the guy did boil it to harden it. And what does that do to it? They ran all these tests on it. And it's like,
yeah,
did this affect those tests in any way? And
yeah, I don't know.
At least one of the tests, they said it does affect it.
Yeah, the nitrogen test.
So, weird stuff.
Yep.
Interesting about the giants, though, bro.
I know. I came across that part and I was like, whoa, dude. That's really Meganthropus.
Cool. Yeah, I need to look those up. I want to know what the modern, like today's, ideas of the
Meganthropus.
Yeah.
Erectus. Yeah. I mean, Gigantopithecus is pretty much an accepted
giant ape.
Giant ape. Yeah. But Meganthropus is something else.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But the whole I
have heard of it
jaw
because I read this book a long time ago.
The jaw twice the size of a human. I was just waiting for them to say like it could fit around your face.
I want to hear about double dentition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can fit around a grown man's jawbone.
Right. Including beard. All those dudes are bearded.
Come on, boys.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. And we're looking forward to the next 200 episodes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you guys can get a hold of us, brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com. Check out the website, brothersoftheserpent.com, for all the podcast-related stuff, including the snake skins, which is our merchandise. You can get T-shirts and all kinds of interesting stuff there, including hats. So check that out if you want a Brothers of the Serpent hat. We got links there to sell hats, and they're embroidered and they're beautiful. Join the pyramid scheme. Support us through Patreon. So we're trying to change this a little bit. If you want to support us on a monthly basis, do it through Patreon because we are providing Patreon content now. If you want to just do a one-time donation, you can do that through PayPal.
That's right.
So that's how we're trying to change it now. A lot of people are still doing monthly donations through PayPal, but we want those people to switch over to Patreon so that you guys can get the Patreon content there. But thanks so much to all of you who do support the show. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate all the gifts and the one-up boxes and just all the outpourings of support for the 201 celebration. And join the Discord if you want to be involved in this kind of stuff and many other conversations. I see many of you have been joining after the last show. That's really good. But yeah, the Discord is where you can not only...
They joined it because they were scared we were going to make it too hard to join.
That's right. We're going to make it harder to join, so join up now while it's still easy. And yeah, it's a great place to be able to talk to us, but also to talk to other listeners who are looking at all this kind of stuff. And they have conversations about all day, all week, all the time, 24/7. There's people on there talking about weird, snaky information, archaeology and UFOs and everything we talk about on the show and more. So I really